Good morning, Angela Turton from Actioncoach in Oakham. I'm one of the senior partners with Actioncoach, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about sales. We talk to quite a lot of business owners who don't actually like the subject of sales. They don't think it's for them. For some reason, they have a little bit of an icky feeling whenever they talk about sales. But we need to understand that if we are in business, as business owners, we are in sales. We need to come to terms with that. So today I want to just show my top 7 tips for sales so that you can feel comfortable in selling to whoever it is that you need to get your word out. So the reason we are all in sales is that we're here for a reason, and that reason has to do with our customers. So we need to be able to have sales conversations with people who may become our customers so that they can solve their problem. So what are we going to do today? We are going to be talking about our top 7 tips to you. So what are our 7 top tips? So the 7 tips that we have are, first of all, know your why. Then we're going to be talking about selling in a way that is congruent to you. We're going to talk about the afters. We're going to talk about how you sell, how you have to be yourself when you're selling. We're going to talk about the close, asking for the sale. We're going to talk a little bit about some technical ways that you can make your sales easier for you, and that is have a process and test and measure. So the first of those top tips is know your why. What are you in business for? What is your purpose? What are your values? And what is your culture? And why do you want to work with a prospect? It is important that you understand and know what these are, because if you can understand what you're in purpose for, what your business is for, and what your purpose is with your business, then you can actually get that message out to your customers. I'm going to just explain this with the help of Simon Sinek. So if we have a look at what Simon said in his great book, Start With Why. You may have already read the TED Talk, or you might have seen him on YouTube. But what Simon says is that the really great businesses, the ones that are consistently great at talking and communicating with their potential clients, do things backwards. So most businesses, when they're talking about themselves and what they do, they start with what we do. So they will say something like, I'm an accountant, I'm a therapist, I sell computers. And almost everybody on the planet knows what they do. They know, if they are in business, they know what it is they're doing. Quite a few people know how they do. And as business owners, you should be knowing how you do what you do. But some salesmen and people who are actually customer facing don't necessarily know how, and even less know why they do what they do, why the business is the business, why it has chosen that avenue to serve its clients. So what Simon says is, when you're talking to your customers, start with the why. And this is how Apple, for example, have been so consistently good at getting their message out. They don't start with, we make computers, or even we make audio players. What they do is they start with, we are in it to innovate. We're in it to shake up the status quo. This is our why. How we do that? We do great design. It's at the heart of all we do. What we do is we make computers. Do you want to buy one? So because people understand why it is that Apple are there to innovate, to make things new, this is why people stand in line to buy the latest iPhone, because buy into that whole innovation, newness that they want. They understand the how. They understand that there's great design going on within Apple. The actual product is probably a little irrelevant, but they understand what they're buying. So when you go out to see your customers, start with why. Start with why it is that you do what you do. So when you're an accountant, for example, going out to see your prospective clients, you don't start with, I'm an accountant, I do tax returns. You start with, I aim to save you time, I aim to save you money, and I aim to make sure that you are compliant with all the rules that there are. You will get, when you work with me, a better understanding of what your money is doing. I believe that every business owner should understand their numbers, should pay the minimum amount of tax possible, and should remain compliant with the rules of the land. How we do it, we make sure that your tax returns are accurate. We make sure your accounts are up to date. What we do is we provide a set of accounts and a tax return. So how does that reflect back into your business? Have a think. What is it that you are going to be thinking and saying about to your clients? So that's our why. Understand what it is that you're doing. Your purpose in life would be like a one-liner. Your values are the things you hold intrinsically true. I believe in fairness. I believe in the right of everybody to pay the amount of tax that they need to pay. I believe that business owners should become the best people they could be. What is your culture? What are your rules of the game? We will not be late. We will not. We will do our utmost to make sure that you understand what you're doing, what is happening. How am I going to deal with you? What is your culture? And when you are about to go into a sales conversation with somebody, work out why you want to work with your prospective customer. What is it about them that really makes you want to work with them? So the next top tip is to be congruent. You need to find a way of working in sales that fits who you are and what you are. As I said right at the very beginning, quite a lot of people don't like the word sales, so don't use it. Find different language that enables you to get over that burden of sales and talk about maybe client onboarding, maybe client recruitment. Maybe you're going to be talking about client attraction. Whatever it is that makes you feel better about this, use it. If you don't feel comfortable picking up the phone to have a sales conversation, then pick up the phone to see how somebody is. Pick up the phone to work out what their problem is that they have in their lives that you perhaps could help with. It has to be your sales, the way you sell has to be appropriate and fitting for who you are and what you do. Heavy, hard-hitting sales techniques may not work if you're in a caring industry, if you're in therapy, giving out therapy or counselling or something like that. It may need to be a lot softer. So work out what works for you and what is congruent for your business. So there are 4 different types of salespeople, and I've plotted them against this line: the product and the problem. So first of all, we have the order taker. Now, the order taker waits for somebody who has a problem to come to them and ask for their product. They don't understand what the problem is. It's not their business. They may not even understand their product very well. So somebody has a problem, they realize they have a problem, and they come and they place an order. And that might work if you have a monopoly, if you're the only people in that business, in that area. But really, the days have gone where you can just put up a sign and people will come. This is like sitting at a McDonald's and waiting for somebody to turn up, and they place an order, I'll have a Big Mac please, and you just fulfill that order. So that's the order taker. If it does work for you, if it is something that works, then that's fine, but do be aware of the limitations of this role. The next, we have the product pusher. Now, the product pusher is somebody who will talk about the product. It's all about the product, not about you, and not about your problem at all. They don't really care what your problem is. They just want to sell the product. And I'm sure we've all had people who've done this before for you. A couple of years ago, we wanted to change my car. My husband and I went to the Jeep garage, and actually the only reason I was changing the car was for the finance reasons. I wanted exactly the same car. It should have been an easy sale. I should have walked into the store and said, I want this car, please. And they could have got it for me very easily. Instead, he had one on sale in the showroom that he wanted to get rid of. So he pushed and pushed and pushed that particular car at me. I didn't want it. It had too much for me. It was much more expensive. And I actually knew what I wanted. So he hadn't listened to my problem. All he wanted to do was sell me that product. Now, if I could have done, I would have walked out and found another Jeep distributor in the area that I could buy it off. In the end, I went to his sales manager, and I realised afterwards that he had lost his job fairly recently after that. So if you have got a product pusher, you're probably not going to get a lot of sales. If you do get sales, the customer will find that their problem has not been sorted, and they will not be coming back to you. They will end up being very frustrated, they will be resentful, and you will have broken the relationship that you've been trying to make. Down here we have the overseller, and this is somebody who promises the earth. They will have thought about your problem, and they will be saying their product definitely solves it, but they might not know their product very well, or at least they don't know which parts of the product you should be selling, or they're selling you stuff that you actually cannot be achieved with this product. And my husband used to work in IT, and he often found the big projects that the salesman would go out and they would promise that these things would be possible, that you can have it in a month's time. Yes, it will do this, that, and the other. And then it was down to the back office. It was down to the technicians in the office to actually find a way of delivering that. And quite often it couldn't be done. So again, your customer ends up very frustrated and very upset about you and confused, and they're not going to be buying from you again. And worse, they're going to be giving you a really bad example, because they don't know that it's the problem of the salesman. They will just say the company doesn't deliver what it promises. And then we have the problem solver, and this is the sweet spot of sales. So the salesperson has dug deep, they've worked out what the problem is, they know the product, they know which parts of the product will work for you, or which parts of their service will work for you. And they help the customer find what it is that they need and how they can address those. They talk about the afters. So what exactly is sales? Well, sales is solving someone else's problem. So you really do need to be in this quadrant when you're selling. You really need to be looking at what it is. You need to understand the problem, and you need to understand the product so that you can solve their problem. And if you can't solve their problem, then you need to be putting them over to someone who can. So the third of our top tips is to start with afters. And this is an Andy Bounds thing. So Andy Bounds' system, the ABC of selling, as he's talked about several times, is talk about the afters, build certainty, and then you close. So what is all this afters that we've been talking about? Well, the afters is what the customer is left with once they have finished talking to you. So when you're having sales conversations, it's a conversation between you and the buyer. And quite often we start off talking, when we're talking to our buyer, in this quadrant, in the past, our past. And it's things like, I'm an accountant. I've been qualified for 30 years. I work with small businesses. I've worked with many small businesses. I have these certificates on the wall. And the customer, the buyer, is just sitting there saying, well, so what? Well, I don't care what you did in the past. Even less interest to the customer is what's in your future. And if he gets the perception that actually you're only here to talk to him because it's in your self-interest, your future will be brighter after you've spoken to him, then he will perceive a huge self-interest here, and that will you'll lose the trust, and we'll talk about that later. So he's not interested in your future, he's only limitedly interested in your past, but only if you can show him that that's relevant to him. He is interested, your buyer, is interested in his problem, and his problem resides in his past. So you need to talk about his past. You need to get the questions and dig deep and find out what the problem is that sits in his past. And when you have done that, you can then move into the buyer's future. And this is where the sales will happen. When you can convince your buyer that what you have will help him in his future to solve his problem, then he will start to take you seriously. That's where the sales will happen. So you need to think about what it is, what is the afters that you will be giving to your buyer when you have finished working with him. So again, back to my tax person, my accountant. My accountant will be giving some comfort, making sure that people are aware that they don't have they're not going to get a tax bill that's too high for them. They know what their tax is going to be. They know they won't be going to prison for not submitting all their tax returns. They know that the company's house will not be shutting them down because they have complied with everything they need to comply with. So within that scenario, what is it that you bring to your customer when you have finished working with them? As business coaches, what we say is you will have a better future because your business will be better. You'll have more time away from your business to spend with your family. Your money within your business will increase, and your team will work better as an integrated whole. And this is our promise to you. So we are talking about the buyer's future. So think about very carefully, write down 20 or so afters that they have got from you once you've left them. So our fourth top tip is to bring yourself. As Oscar Wilde famously said, be yourself, everyone else is taken. Now, the reason that you need to be yourself is because part of what you're doing when you're talking in your sales conversations is building trust and building rapport between you and the customer. If you have a mask over your face, they won't understand what you're trying to say. They won't understand who you're trying to be. So it's really important that you do not pretend to be somebody other than who you are. So make sure that you are taken off the mask and that you are yourself. Most sales decisions are based 80% on emotion, backed up with 20% of logic. So people will feel that something is right for them. They will look at it and the emotion will be, this is right, I feel this is right. And then they will look for reasons why it's right. So if you are wearing your mask when you're having sales conversations, if you've got this covered, you won't be able to get to the emotion. People won't be able to really engage with you. And this is the reason, it's all about trying to get to the trust. So we have a formula for trust. Trust comes when credibility, reliability, and likability are all present and not undermined by a perceived self-interest. So the credibility, does the customer think you can deliver what you're going to do? This is where my CV comes in handy. So this is where I can say I'm a qualified accountant. I have the certificates on the wall. I have been in practice for 30 years. I have dealt with a lot of companies that are going through the same pain as you. For example, if you're a therapist, then you can say, yes, I have seen this. I know this. This is where referrals are so very useful, because your credibility is so high as soon as you've had those referrals. The reliability, as we've been going through this process of sales with you, have you done what you've said you're going to do? Have you been did you turn up on time? Were you where you said you were going to be at the time you said you were going to be? Did you send when you first had the conversation on the phone and said you'd send something? Did you send that? If not, you will lose your reliability, and they will think, well, if she couldn't be bothered to turn up to a sales conversation, then how do I know she's going to be bothered to actually perform what she said she's going to do? And likability. You're going to have to work with these people. Do they like you? So they have to know, like, and trust you. And again, as I said earlier, if the customer thinks that you are motivated by self-interest, then they will not trust quite as heavily what you're saying, because they're thinking, well, he's only telling me that so I could spend more with him. And you will automatically think, no, that's not going to work. So the trust is lessened. So bear this in mind when you're having those conversations with your clients. So when you're in problem-solving mode, you need to be starting to think about questions. This comes from Alan P's Questions Are the Answers. So a problem solver's best weapon is his questions. Ask, ask, ask. Lots and lots of questions. Listen twice as much as you speak, because they will sell themselves. And when you are talking to customers, the idea is that you need to get to the emotion behind the decision. Because as I said, 80% of sales decisions are made on emotion. It is your job as a seller, as being in charge of that conversation, to actually get to that emotion for that client so they can make that decision. So questions are the answers. You need to make as many questions as you can, and they will answer. Which leads me to my next top tip. Which is that you need to ask for the sale. And a lot of people forget this last bit. They've spent a lot of time talking to their client. They've talked for an hour or so. They've really dug deep. They've gone into the answer, the problem. They really understand what this client needs and what they want to do. And they may have given a few solutions. But what they failed to do is ask for the sale. Back to Andy Bounds, ABC. You have explored the problem. So you've built your certainty with your trust and your questions. And now you need to close. You need to do this. So ask all the questions and they answer. And then at the end, you ask them the question, are you ready to buy yet? Now, it doesn't have to be as bold as that. You can work out the words that work for you. What are you thinking? What do you think right now? How does this sound to you? Do you think this is going to provide you with A, B, C, whatever it is? And they may have more questions. They may not be ready to buy yet. They may have more questions. And that's great, because what you do not want them to do is to go away from your conversation and then have the questions when you aren't there to answer them. So you talk to them about their questions. You go back up here. Let's explore that a little bit more. Let's get the answers. And then, are you ready to buy it? You may get more questions. So you go back round the circle. Or you might just get, yes, I'm ready to buy. Or yes, I have made a decision. So you've gone through all your questions. You've got to this point where you asked for the sale and they have said yes. But it doesn't matter if they say no. As long as you've got to the stage where you have asked that question and you have brought everything to a close, you need to get to this point where there is a decision made. You and your customer are on a journey. You are moving through this journey. All of your questions and answering is happening up here. All of your problem finding, all of your thoughts about what it could be, what the solution could be, is here. Now, if you stop here, what will happen is that you will leave your customer feeling confused, feeling uncertain, and feeling just not right. You have got all of this emotion, but you haven't got closure. Now, it may be that your particular product isn't right for them, but you need to get them over the line. You need to get them to a point where they have made a decision. And that is your job, because you are leading this conversation. Once you get to this point, you will get closure and certainty. If you get to this point and then say, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a call in a couple of weeks to find out, or just leave it and say, that was lovely talking to you, thank you very much. Well, the customer is then not got anywhere to go. They don't know what to do. You've stirred them up. They are now very acutely aware of their problem. And if you don't take them over the line, they will go looking for somebody else who will. So you need to be the one who then says, okay, let's talk about, this is the solution. Are you ready to buy it? And again, you're going back and talking more if they're not ready to buy. But you need to get them to that stage that they have made a decision. Because if you don't, you are not giving them closure and you are not giving them certainty, and you have failed in your duty to your potential client. So far from it being icky sales type thing, when you ask for the sale, you're actually providing a service, and you need to do that after every conversation that you're having with your clients, because not to do that will leave them hanging and leave them uncertain. So we've come to the close. They've said thank you very much, and they have agreed to buy what it is that you are selling. Congratulations, well done. So how do we make the whole process simple and easy? So there's two tips left, and it's all about making life easy for your client. So the first of those is have a process and have a script, a checklist, or a process that says what to do. So again, have a process. This is what went well, what worked for you. And it's going to be taken a while to work it out. It's going to be a question of you working through what works, writing that down, building on it, changing it. It's an evolving thing. And as your business evolves, as the economy changes, as we have things happen, like we've had the COVID situation, all of this will change. So the first is process. And a process is if X, then Y. So if they answer the phone, then I say this. If they agree to a meeting, then I send the information. If I get to the meeting, then I tell them about stuff. So what is your process? What do you go through? And it could be, if they've agreed to a meeting, I send a postcard to say to confirm it. What is your process? Have a script, and these are the words that work. So if you have spoken to somebody and it's really resonated, those words are the words that you might want to use again. So write them down, learn them, work out what works for you. And if you've got a process like this, then you might have different scripts at each part of the process. So you might have a script for when I ring them up and they answer, I use this script. When I ring to check that they're okay for the meeting, I use this script. And a script doesn't need to be complicated. In a retail store, you might increase your sales by changing the script that you use when you greet customers. So instead of saying, oh, hello, can I help you? Can I help you gives you two options, yes or no. Most people will say no to that. And most people are expecting that question and they expect to say no. So most people will say no straight away. Even if they think afterwards, I should have said, yes, I really need help. The first initial point when you walk into a store, and especially in England, because we're so reticent, is to say, no, I'm fine. Leave me alone. So if you change the script to a question they're not expecting, then they have to think and they have to pause. So the automatic no doesn't come out. How about a question such as, have you been here before? And they stop. And you've broken what they thought you were going to say. So they don't automatically say no. They have to think about that. Have I been here before? Yes or no? When they give you the answer, you then have a follow-up. And the follow-up script might say, you say yes. You say, oh, great. Shall I show you what's new? Or if they say no, that's fantastic. Thank you for popping in. Would you like any help finding anything in particular today? So can you see that will automatically start to engage your client, engage your customer, so that they can just start having a conversation with you and you can find out what it is and your sales will go up because you've started that interaction. And then a reminder to ask or show. What does that look like? If I'm selling a car, maybe I've got to remember to show the customer all these great features on my car that I'm selling. If I'm selling tax and accountancy, I've got to remember to ask about their different income streams that they've got, about who owns the business, about who else is involved in decision making, about who does the tax, who does the bookkeeping at the moment. So I've got a list of questions that I need to ask. So this is a process. And you may need all three in your process. If it's complicated, you may only need to change one or two of these things. But think very carefully about what it is that I can do to make my life easier when I'm selling, to make sure that I use what is good consistently. Because that also means if you've got this process, if you've got these scripts, it doesn't need to be you all the time with your knowledge. You can get help with your sales conversations because you have got it all written down, and your team can also start giving these great pieces of advice and having the conversations with the client. Is to test and measure. What does that look like? What that looks like is you actually recording what activity you do. So what did I do? What activity went on in my sales process, in the conversations that I have? And what happened? What was the outcome of all those conversations, of all those steps? And if you've got the process that we spoke about a moment ago, you might like to say, what did I do at each level of this, of that process? If you've got a tier of things that you do to get the sale, then what was the outcome at each tier? What you can do if you do this is you can actually rinse out the things that didn't work, repeat the things that did. So you're going through, if your outcome's good and it's what you want and it's where you want to be, then just repeat your activity. If your outcome's not what you wanted, then you're looking at your activity to see what could you have done. What was it that you could do to make that better? And what I want to just show you very quickly is how easy that is to do. So this is a sheet that we use for marketing and to with our clients. We encourage them to look and say, okay, what was strategy number one? This could also be what was activity number one. What happened? What were the KPIs that I'm measuring myself against? What's the objective here? And then what actually happened? What out of every week that I'm measuring these, what actually happened? Because then you can see what happened. It's easy to do it on a spreadsheet. It's easy to do it on a whiteboard on the wall. Just put something on the wall and have what's happening, how many people have you contacted today? If you're in telesales, how many people did I contact? How many people did I ring? How many decision makers did I get through to? How many did I then get a conversation with? What was the outcome at the end? Did they go through to buy? So you've got all of that in a process on the wall. If you're sending out flyers or if you're sending out letters to people, then again, what letters did I send? Who did I send them to? What was the outcome? How many responded? How many sales conversations did I get as a chance of that? Because that will just show you how you're going through and what's happening. So remember, you need to look at the outcomes, but you also need to look at the activity levels of what you're doing in your sales. So I hope that was useful for you. If you've got any questions, then please let me know. Type those in or just email me. My email is on screen there. Just let me know or give me a call. There's more information. There's a recording of a webinar, a couple of webinars we have done on sales on our website. There's more information about us on the website as well. Please come over and join and like our Facebook group, our Facebook page at Actioncoach Oakham, where you can get more information about other lunches and learns. We're going to be doing lunch and learn every month. It's going to be on a Monday round about lunchtime, so you can sit and listen while you're eating your lunch. I hope you've learned something. If you've got any comments, as I say, please get in touch. And I look forward to speaking to you next month when we're going to be talking about what comes before sales. So what's your marketing look like? This is letting people know you exist so you can have the sales conversations. And if you've got problems with sales and it really is something that you really don't want to be doing, then why don't you book in with us and one of us can talk you through how to go about starting those sales conversations. So this is Angela Turton, Senior Partner with Actioncoach based in Oakham. Enjoy your lunch and enjoy your afternoon. Thank you.